They're watching you. More than 4,000 satellites circle the Earth. Every day, they uncover new mysterious phenomena. Some defy explanation.
Bam! This sticks out like a sore thumb.
It looks weird.
Iran's Navy threatens to go nuclear.
This is a real show of Iranian strength. It's like a full-scale fireworks display.
Aerial archaeology uncovers a sinister structure close to the legendary city of Petra.
How is it possible that a place as large as this has gone undiscovered the entire time?
And a monstrous mark scars the Russian wilderness.
This is so strange. It's like a bite mark taken out of the ground.
Baffling phenomena. Mysteries from space. What on earth are they? February 2014. A satellite photographs alarming activity at the Gachin shipyard, Iran.
This area of the world, the Persian Gulf in particular, is one of the most photographed areas on the face of the Earth.
The shipyard opens into the Strait of Hormuz, a critical artery for most of the world's oil supplies. 17 million barrels pass through this channel every day.
We all know that the Iranians are very fond of referring to the United States as the Great Satan. So we expend a great deal of effort in order to know what they're up to.
The picture, taken in 2014, raises fears Iran could be up to something.
2013, we have what looks like an ordinary shipyard. Fast forward to February of 2014, and suddenly we're seeing something suspicious.
The Gachin shipyard is known for producing tankers and container ships. But the new vessel under construction is unlike anything that's been seen here before.
From above, that shape is unmistakable. Only one thing looks like that: an aircraft carrier.
This was unexpected. We have not known the Iranians to have an aircraft carrier capability. So this is something that we wanted to keep a very close eye on.
The fleet carriers of the U.S. Navy terrify the Iranian military more than any other type of warship. They know that if it comes to war with America, it will be these ships unleashing destruction upon Iran. If the Iranians can deploy one of these super weapons, they could dominate the region's seas.
This would certainly indicate a significant shift in the balance of power.
By March 2014, the suspicious vessel is almost finished.
New satellite images reveal a disturbing resemblance in its shape and design.
This doesn't look just like any other ship. It resembles the USS Nimitz, the world's premier warship.
These ships carry more than 5,000 sailors, dozens of fighter aircraft, helicopters. They bristle with weaponry. These capabilities are unmatched anywhere on Earth.
The finished ship appears to be an almost exact copy of the United States' most formidable symbol of naval supremacy. It looks unmistakably like a challenge.
Why would the Iranians want to build a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier? That's outrageous.
For Iran, the construction of a Nimitz-style carrier would be a mammoth undertaking. A single vessel costs almost $5 billion and requires 2 fully functional nuclear power plants for its engines. Is this ship evidence the Iranians have defied international pressure and secretly developed nuclear technology?
Only a handful of nations on Earth have that capability.
That's really disturbing because our current intelligence says they don't have anything close to this.
If Iran can deploy nuclear-powered vessels, it means the nation also has the potential to develop nuclear weapons.
The idea of a nuclear-capable Iran is frightening.
The motive seems clear, but something doesn't quite add up. Advanced nuclear technology is normally kept top secret.
Iran is well aware that any time they do something dubious, it is being captured by satellite imagery.
So if Iran were building a aircraft carrier, nuclear-powered or otherwise, the obvious question is, why do it in full view of the world?
Another possibility is that Iran is doing this because they want everybody to see it. They want to be provocative. Could it be political posturing, taunting?
Analysts take a closer look at the satellite images. Although this is a remarkably good copy of a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, the length is wrong.
In fact, it's only 2/3 the size of the Nimitz itself.
From the top, it looks just like an aircraft carrier, kind of except for the size issue. And in this situation, size does matter.
The presence of aircraft lined up on the deck of the ship offers another clue to Iran's intentions.
You don't build an aircraft carrier and then put the aircraft on it while it's still being constructed.
The inconsistencies puzzle analysts. Why would the Iranians need a pint-sized version of the world's most dangerous warship?
It was very clear to us that they were up to something.
Just months after its completion, the ship suddenly vanishes.
The obvious first question is, where is it located now? Where have they moved it? Has it gone out to sea? You need to find it now to know what they're doing with this ship.
Eventually, the look-alike Nimitz does show up as the star of a dramatic TV broadcast that grabs world attention. But this heavyweight killer isn't unleashing any destruction. It's on the receiving end of a devastating bombardment by the Iranian Navy.
Footage appears on Iranian television showing this vessel being attacked by missiles and rockets.
You're seeing anti-ship missiles, you're seeing handheld rockets being launched.
It's a military exercise intended to prove Iran's boast that they can sink a U.S. warship in under a minute.
This is a real show of Iranian strength. Speedboats, missiles flying at this mock-up of a U.S. warship.
That's really what the goal was for Iran, was to show to their people and to the world that they had the capability of sinking a United States carrier.
Images from the exercise reveal the fake aircraft carrier's shortcomings. The footage clearly shows where the explosions have blasted away a flimsy outer shell, uncovering an ordinary barge beneath. Even the jets aren't real. The whole thing is a propaganda stunt.
It's basically an elaborate, low-tech Hollywood prop.
While the Iranian Navy attempts to intimidate the West, U.S. satellites watch from above.
You have the propaganda machine in Iran stating that they sunk this aircraft carrier during the exercise, but in reality they didn't.
They ended up having to tow it back to the shipyard.
Photos snatched during the aftermath of the exercise confirm that the barge only suffered minor damage.
It's difficult for us to know exactly what the Iranians' intent was. Frankly, whatever it was they had in mind failed.
Many Western observers treat the display as a joke, but to others, the raw aggression of the exercise is a cause for concern.
Some people might find this silly, but I don't. One, for propaganda within the country to show that they have this great superpower against the United States. And then just to show the world, look, we're practicing on striking on you.
This is a dangerous game that they're playing, this posturing, because it doesn't seem to indicate a nation that's trying to get along with others, not only in the region, but throughout the rest of the world.
Satellite images reveal thousands of mysterious mounds in the shadow of a sacred mountain.
Whatever's going on here, there's certainly a puzzle.
It almost looks like a bubble wrap.
These mounds are one of the oldest unsolved geologic mysteries.
July 2012. Satellites passing high above the west coast of the United States photograph thousands of bizarre Earth mounds.
You see these white, kind of pimpled pockmarks all throughout the landscape.
You've got mounds that are maybe just a few inches tall, up to about 160 feet in diameter.
Maybe it's just like random piles of sand, but why would people pile up sand in this type of a formation?
The mounds are located at the southern tip of the Cascade Mountain Range in Northern California. The mysterious features have puzzled scientists since their discovery in the 19th century.
For the last 100-some years, we've had more than 30 explanations for how these things formed. And the fact that we're still debating it makes it one of our longest unsolved mysteries.
The mounds in the satellite image lie in the shadow of a 14,000-foot-high mountain, Mount Shasta.
There has to be something about this location that's significant.
The mound's discoverers from the U.S. exploring expedition suspected they might be evidence of a gigantic Native American graveyard.
I've come across these in the field and thought, wow, these must be burial mounds.
The local Wintu tribes are known to bury their dead in earth mounds near the sacred mountain.
Mount Shasta overlooks hundreds and hundreds of these mounds. If these are burial mounds, what must have happened? Was there an outbreak of disease? Was there a huge battle? People had to be mass buried in a hurry.
If this is some type of Native American cemetery, are we looking at the aftermath of some type of great conflict that happened in the past?
Archaeologists have searched this area for signs of a battle or catastrophic epidemic.
Recent tests have shown that there are no human remains in any of these mounds, and we haven't found any artifacts either.
There's nothing sacred about this particular stretch of prairie, but nearby Mount Shasta has inspired legends which could shed light on the nature of the mysterious mounds. One in particular describes a mystical underground city located within the mountain.
Not everything I hear about the mountain I believe in, but that doesn't mean it's not true. I just haven't experienced it.
According to the legend, when a continent called Lemuria was destroyed, the inhabitants needed to choose where to build their new settlements.
One of the places some of the people ended up was underneath Mount Shasta in the volcanic lava caverns there. And it's called the Crystal City of Telos.
The mountain does have a network of tunnels, and digging them out could have brought heaps of earth to the surface. But searches of Mount Shasta have uncovered no scientific evidence for an underground city.
People haven't caused these mounds, but something has. The only question is, what?
It's a great example of having to go exploring, having to analyze on the ground to understand a feature.
Okay, bring it up here.
The mystery of the mounds has attracted scientists from the University of California at Davis.
There's a huge mystery. What formed these mounds? Several different theories have been proposed, and our goal here today is to see if there's any evidence that would allow us to determine how these mounds formed.
One theory is that the mounds are sediment deposited from Mount Shasta's glaciers.
During the melting of the glaciers, a lot of material would have been mobilized, and among that material that comes off in the glacial waters is a lot of fine particles, the silts, the sand.
Glaciers can create a lot of very strange landforms, just from a subglacial river that transport a lot of sand and gravel, leaving a mound.
As meltwaters flow down slopes, away from glaciers, they tend to deposit sediment along the direction of flow in fairly straight lines, pointing away from the mountain.
If we saw linear pathways through this landscape here, then we would start to think about glacial outwash as being a mechanism.
To test the glacier theory, the team uses a drone to map the precise layout of the mounds.
And looking at the information from the drone, we don't see that linear striation that would be indicative of water-transported material. That's a very important piece of the puzzle. To really understand what formed them, we really need to dig into the soils to see what's there.
The soil sample contains a telltale clue to what really formed the mounds.
The color is uniformly dark, and that darkness is coming from organic matter. So how did that organic matter get from the surface all the way down to 2 feet? Well, this is consistent with mixing by animal. And on this landscape, the #1 soil animal that mixes it are pocket gophers.
Some have suggested that gophers that are moving material around, that doesn't seem too plausible to me.
Given the size and the sheer number of these mounds, as a geologist, it's hard for us to think about animals creating something like this.
But the ground radar sweep suggests the mounds have been made by gophers.
We can search for airspace so we can map out the network of tunnels.
The tunnels run through every mound, and the evidence is even at the surface.
Just down from the major part of the mound here, I found a series of 2 gopher holes.
The gophers push soil and pebbles upwards as they create their burrows, slowly adding layer upon layer. Thousands of these little critters are frantically working away. But why would gophers want to build massive dirt mounds?
These areas get saturated, and if you have a gopher hole that's in a soil that's saturated, that gopher is going to get all wet. So by building these mounds, they get up and above this water table, which keeps them dry.
According to computer models, it would take gophers 700 years to construct these vast mounds.
If you consider a family of gophers, generations and generations of gophers that build these over time, maybe that could work.
That's pretty cool that a little gopher can have a signature that's seen from hundreds of miles up.
An eye in the sky discovers a stone platform that could reveal a violent, untold chapter in the history of Petra.
It's very possible that hundreds or possibly thousands of people would come to this monument.
Like the legendary tomb of Tutankhamun, it's remained hidden beneath the desert sand for thousands of years.
This discovery could change everything. It could actually rewrite the history books and everything we know about Middle Eastern archaeology.
Analysts studying Pleiades satellite images of Jordan spot a strange shape in the desert sand. A football field-sized rectangle that has somehow eluded archaeologists for decades.
The evolutions in technology, especially with satellite imagery, really is a game changer now for archaeology.
This image is very subtle, but dead center, there's a fairly pronounced rectangle that stands out against the background.
For investigators, the location is intriguing. It stands less than a mile from Petra's fabled ancient monuments.
Petra, the city, is, rightfully one of the archaeological wonders of the world.
Petra is very well known. It was even used in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade as the city where they find the Holy Grail.
Few of the tourists who visit here realize that this is a city obsessed with death. The site is littered with more than 1,000 tombs engraved with curses. And its most famous monument, the Treasury, was built to honor the dead.
Kings may have been divinized upon their death. So it has also been hypothesized that this served a bit as a temple in the worship of that deceased king.
The satellite image could be evidence of undiscovered secrets still hidden around the ghostly city.
Thanks to the images, we were able to get actual measurements of this monument, which is very, very large. It's about 180 feet per side.
Seems to be potentially a religious platform of some sort, perhaps an arena of some sort.
A clue to the structure's function could come from another religious platform discovered at Petra. It's known as the High Place of Sacrifice, an area dedicated to ritual killing.
It's not unusual in ancient societies to find these very carefully prepared communal spaces that are used for displays of power and rituals and ceremonies.
The founders of Petra, the Nabateans, are rumored to have slain children as offerings to their gods. The new discovery is almost 4 times bigger than the High Place of Sacrifice. Could it point to bloodletting on a much bigger scale than previously believed?
This discovery could change everything. It could actually rewrite the history books and everything we know about Middle Eastern archaeology.
In 2016, archaeologist Christopher Tuttle visits the site. His study of the stone masonry concludes that it's part of a genuinely ancient structure.
I remember the first time I walked to the site and knowing it was in fact a monument was a great revelatory moment.
The discovery of the remains of a giant staircase leading up to the structure raises a new and intriguing possibility for what it could be. A vast arena for massive public events.
People, in order to get to this site, would have had to work their way through a series of interconnected small valleys and then climb up this monumental staircase.
If it's an arena, one possibility is that there would have been a kind of public gathering for a contest, like gladiator displays, perhaps.
An arena this size could have hosted the gladiatorial Super Bowls of its era, with huge crowds coming here to witness ferocious battles to the death. Artifacts found at the site indicate it was built around the time that Rome saw its first gladiators.
The pottery that was found on the surface tells us it could have been built as early as the beginning of the founding of the city of Petra, which was about the middle of the 2nd century BC.
When analysts study a drone image of the site, they discover another clue, evidence of a small building.
Based on what little bit of architecture we can see that's there today, we really think that this was most likely some sort of sacred shrine.
The purpose of this sacred spot is unknown. If the remains of sacrificial victims lie here, they are yet to be discovered. Despite the structure's proximity to one of the world's most famous archaeological sites, it still holds secrets.
Archaeologists have been poring over the Petra site for decades. How is it possible that in a place where there's been so much excavation and so much discovery, that a place as large as this has gone undiscovered the entire time?
Was it deliberately destroyed by its creators to conceal evidence of their barbaric bloodletting? Or demolished by rampaging conquerors in some long-forgotten war? For now, what lies beneath these sands remains an enigma. The internet lights up when an eye in the sky photographs a car appearing to mock the law of gravity.
There's some things on Earth, when we see them from space, that just make absolutely no sense.
This is an image which totally defies logic.
It almost feels like the movie Inception, where the world is just topsy-turvy, flipping over itself.
An Aerodata eye in the sky passes over The Hague, Netherlands. It photographs something that appears to defy the laws of nature.
When I see a car parked on the side of a building, I have to start wondering if I'm in the Matrix.
This is strange. There's no way this could be really a car stuck to the side of a building.
If it's not an actual car, the simplest explanation is that it's an optical illusion.
We've seen these optical illusions before. A few years ago, someone spotted what looked like a flying car.
The famous flying car was spotted in Perth, Australia. The image went viral and prompted a frenzy of speculation about what it really was.
At first glance, this looks really weird, right? This white car is floating with its shadow underneath it.
There is no question, this is very strange.
The explanation for the flying car is that it's a trick of the mind, where the brain misinterprets light and shade.
It turns out that this image is nothing but a white car parked next to a black car. Once you realize that, it's completely obvious what you're looking at.
Detailed examination of the mysterious car on the side of a building reveals it can't be the result of a similar optical illusion.
Not only is the car stuck to the side of the building, but so are the road markings.
Some internet speculation around the image suggests it could be a computer glitch. Data processing errors can sometimes transform an ordinary satellite photograph into something surreal.
There's this thing called the Escher effect. It's named after the artist M.C. Escher, who drew these impossible structures. It's when tall buildings in satellite images, they appear to defy the very laws of physics.
The effect is caused by the way computers put satellite images together.
The effect itself is a real mind bender. The pictures are super trippy, but the explanation itself is actually really simple.
As a satellite makes consecutive orbits around the Earth, it doesn't pass the same place twice. One satellite passed that captured this set of buildings, and then another satellite passed which captured this set of buildings. To a stitching program which puts all those images together, it doesn't care. It just needs to know that this coordinate is next to this geographic coordinate, and it puts them next to each other.
While the Escher effect is fairly common, it can't be responsible for the mystery image.
Problem is, the Escher effect only really happens to tall buildings, things like skyscrapers.
Investigation at the site of the gravity-defying car reveals the surprising answer.
The truth of the situation is a lot more down to earth. What we're actually looking at is an art installation.
The piece is called Extreme Parking. It's by an artist named Theo van Laar, and he's extended the parking lot up the side of the building. That's an actual Mini Cooper up there.
Van Laar created the work to demonstrate how congested our towns and cities have become. He had no idea that his piece could be seen from space.
I never looked at Google Earth, but somebody sent me an email note. You have to look. And then I looked, and there it was. And I thought it was very, very nice.
Remarkably, Van Laar's car is still parked on a wall, over 30 years after he raised it up using a specially adapted crane and 16 high-strength bolts.
This image is exactly what it appears to be. It's a car that's parked on the side of a building.
Strange markings spotted deep in Russia's Caucasus Mountains pose disturbing questions.
Clearly, something's created it. What? Force of nature or man?
You have to ask, why would anyone build such a structure up in the mountains?
Russia, October 2004. During an inspection of aerial photographs from the Soviet Union, archaeologists discover a series of weird shapes on the ground.
This is so strange. It's like a bite mark taken out of the ground.
This is one of these things where you really don't know what's going on.
If I was looking at it and I was in the military, I'd want to investigate. I wouldn't be happy to leave that alone.
The photograph dates from the 1970s, but all other information about it has been lost. The only thing investigators know is that it was taken somewhere over the Caucasus Mountains in southern Russia.
The Caucasus mountain range is one of the less known mountain ranges on the planet, but it's actually a very, very big range.
To try to uncover the exact location of the site, image analysts compare the old aerial photo with modern topographical maps. The shape appears to be in the foothills of Mount Elbrus, Europe's tallest mountain. This newfound information raises the possibility that the scar could be connected to another local mystery.
Back in 1948, a Soviet plane went missing between Azerbaijan and Georgia, and to this day, we don't know what happened.
The location of the image is tantalizingly close to the flight path of the missing Soviet plane. It leads some to suspect this could be the crash site.
The missing plane's planned flight course was just 165 miles south of this site. That's barely any distance if the plane went off course even a little bit.
The unpredictable weather around Mount Elbrus could easily have brought down an old plane. But the image doesn't back up the theory.
There's no visible debris. I don't see any wings, no tires, no engines. If this was a plane crash, it was a very neat one.
Analysts consider what else could have made such a bizarre imprint on the mountain.
It looks like something that would have been created by humans, but we have to ask also, why would anyone build such a structure up in the mountains?
One possible answer has sinister implications. In the old Soviet Union, isolated parts of the country often concealed dark secrets.
The Soviet Union used remote locations as a way of making people disappear.
Under Joseph Stalin's tyrannical rule, 18 million men and women were sent to brutal labor camps called gulags at the most hostile frontiers of the Red Empire.
While many gulag camps are a matter of public record, others remain top secret and classified, and we don't know where they are.
The circular cell-like shapes around the edge of the structure support the idea that this could be the remains of a gulag.
There was, in many ways, no rhyme or reason to why you ended up in the gulag. People would arrive having no idea what their crime was. If you went to the gulag, it was literally hell on earth. You were nowhere near your friends and family, and the labor was utterly exhausting. People will work to death.
The image doesn't show any evidence of watchtowers or fences, but gulags often didn't need them.
The gulags were very, very simple. They were camps where basically you didn't need to have barbed wire, many guards. Why? Because if you leave, if you get out, you're going to die, because there's nowhere to go.
The isolated location would explain the simplicity of the structure. But closer inspection of the image reveals a detail which casts doubt on the gulag theory.
This feature seems to be made out of stone, so I don't think this is evidence of a gulag. Gulags generally don't have wall remains made of stone.
For years after its discovery, the structure remained unexcavated until a team of archaeologists led by Sabine Reinhold stumbled across the site.
We were traveling in the area, doing survey there, and our driver said, okay, look, at the end of the gorge there is something. And we were short in time, we said, oh, no. But we decided to go there. When we arrived at the site, we understood that we have discovered a real new archaeological phenomenon. Absolutely unknown features and unknown things nobody had seen ever in this area. It was clear that it is a settlement. It was clear because it was possible to decide that these are houses. We found a lot of ceramics and animal bones on the surface.
No one knows who these people were or how they came to be here. But the construction methods used suggest the site is truly ancient.
There's no written records of any colony in these mountains. So you gotta ask, just how old is this place?
It's not clear, but we know in the Bronze Age, which is about 4,000 years ago, people were building features like this.
Radiocarbon dating puts the age at 3,600 years old, the right ballpark for the Bronze Age. It also reveals something extraordinary. The people who lived here survived on this harsh mountainside for over 1,000 years, and then vanished.
In these high mountain plateaus, it's rather harsh and windy, and it's not the best place to live constantly. But then they stayed there for about 1,000 years. And then suddenly they moved. But why they moved, we don't know.
Perhaps the conditions became too harsh for them. Or perhaps they were taken against their will. All we do know is that over 3,000 years ago, some enigmatic people chose this desolate site to make their home.
With so little to go on, we may never know who they were and why they built this impressive complex.
A social media storm draws high-tech surveillance to one of the world's biggest manhunts.
This is one of the world's deadliest terrorist groups. Without warning, 276 girls disappear.
Just how do almost 300 people go missing without anyone knowing where they've gone?
Across the globe, state-of-the-art aerial imagery is being used to hunt for the world's most wanted terrorists. In April 2014, a shocking attack on a school directs the gaze of satellites to a remote corner of sub-Saharan Africa.
Fighters from the Boko Haram guerrilla group stormed into a school at Chibok in northeastern Nigeria and kidnapped 276 schoolgirls.
The mass kidnapping sparks outrage across global media.
It was an attack that took the world completely by surprise. Suddenly, there was an outpouring of concern on social media. We saw the hashtag #BringBackOurGirls. Everybody can probably remember that picture of Michelle Obama holding up that sign. Everybody suddenly wanted to get these girls back.
The school that the girls were kidnapped from was actually a government school where they were teaching people science and math.
The incredible thing is, they just seem to disappear. How can that many people be hidden anywhere on this planet?
Authorities use satellites to search for the suspected perpetrators. The extreme Islamic terror group Boko Haram, who've spent over a decade seizing control over large swaths of northeast Nigeria.
The goal of the group Boko Haram is to establish an Islamic state. Of course, the name of the group literally means Western influence or Western education is forbidden.
They are driven towards power, they're incredibly violent, and they conduct raids and murder and rape.
As soon as the search for the kidnapped girls begins, military and civilian satellites urgently direct their cameras towards the terrorists' last known hideout near the border with Cameroon.
It was an incredible display of international cooperation. You know, the US, the French, all of these different countries stepped in to find these girls.
The satellites are attempting to pinpoint the schoolgirls in an area nearly the size of South Carolina.
Fact of the matter is, this is ideal country for guerrilla operations. We're talking about a very remote area, forests, hills, and the rebels always seem to be one step ahead.
Despite knowing the rough whereabouts of the girls, a months-long search fails to pinpoint a precise location. To make matters worse, Boko Haram continued to terrorize the region, kidnapping more children and raiding villages.
Boko Haram does not have like one specific headquarters that they operate out from. They move around very quickly, they're very mobile.
That's their advantage. They can play a cat and mouse game with the security forces. They can leave a very light footprint. It's very difficult for the authorities to keep up.
Finding these kidnapped schoolgirls is an incredibly difficult task, but Boko Haram is a growing organization and they leave traces everywhere that they go.
9 months after the girls' abduction, satellites detect Boko Haram's current whereabouts. 2 images of a village, taken just 1 week apart, expose the scale of their latest atrocity.
2015, Boko Haram committed one of the biggest attacks that they've ever done.
Terrorism expert Melissa Hannum analyzes the images for clues that might reveal a connection with the kidnappers.
We're trying to see where attacks have happened. This is a healthy village that has just what you would normally expect: cars, tidy roadways, lots of healthy trees. These people are probably farmers. There are no military targets here.
There was no access to independent observers or independent reporters, so we deployed satellite images to see what's going on, and it was a really shocking picture what we saw.
2,000 people are feared to have been killed in the barbaric massacre.
Walls we were looking at before are now completely gone. You see blast marks. All of this are homes that have just been reduced to rubble.
Satellites focus their attention around this and other devastated villages, hoping for signs of the girls' whereabouts.
While they identified many villages that had suffered really just catastrophic damage, they had not, unfortunately, been able to find the girls themselves.
With all this satellite technology, one would think that it will be possible to at least narrow down the area where these girls have disappeared to, but it seems like they vanished into thin air.
The manhunt finally gets a lead when several of the girls manage to escape.
Some of the girls have been able to escape, but there are still more than 200 girls missing, so we're not in a position to stop looking yet.
The free girls provide authorities with information about where the survivors are still being held.
Some of them are already explaining where they came from.
Satellites are joined by military drones to pinpoint the precise location.
A satellite is in orbit over the Earth. On the other hand, a drone can maintain surveillance on a spot. Then you can get a better image of what's going on the planet.
Drones catch glimpses of Boko Haram and even attack teams of terrorist gunmen. But there is still no sign of the missing girls. Authorities are forced to try radical new techniques. Amnesty International image specialist Christoph Cuttle analyzes the terrorists' smartphone footage and cross-references it with satellite data.
Instead, suddenly a lot of people use camera-enabled cell phones and they document everything that's going on around them. That allows me to use the footage and match it up with satellite imagery and confirm the exact location. Sometimes, only maybe the town, but a lot of cases we can really zoom in on a specific house and we know the exact street corner where something has happened.
But Boko Haram seem to be growing wise to these techniques. When the militants release a video showing the girls they still have captive, they disguise the background to hide their location. The search for the surviving girls is ongoing.
Although some of the schoolgirls have escaped from Boko Haram's clutches, a lot of them are still in captivity. We are not going to stop until we've found them and rescued them.